And welcome to the next edition of Expert Showcase. Today, our featured guest is Lisa Mallis, and she's going to be telling you how to accomplish your number one most important task every day, even if you're super busy. And welcome to the show, Lisa. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's going to be an awesome hour-ish show, so to speak. We like to have a lot of fun. So for those of you who haven't watched before, we like to have a lot of fun. We bring you great guests every day and every week. Today, Lisa's going to tell you some awesome stuff. Before we get into this incredible, epic, awesome, can I give you any more? Can I say any more? Got to figure out more of those.
Keep going, loving it. Keep going.
So before we get into all the epic and awesome information Lisa's got for you today, let's get to know Lisa a little bit better. So Lisa, let's start off by let's get to know each other a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds like a plan. I am currently a time strategy visionary, but I did not start here at all. So it has been quite the journey to get to where I am right now. And I feel that each of the pieces of my journey has enabled me to be where I am right now, and to be happy here. So I started out in high school education as first a math teacher, and then as a high school administrator. I was an athletic director for a Division I high school here in Ohio. And at the same time, I was also going to grad school. And I was also leading a team of motivated women in a direct sales company and was working about 70 hours a week. And so what's really great about where I am now is I have learned the hard way what not to do. And so then I can start to share that experience with my clients. Because I'm not the only one in the world who worked way more than they wanted to and didn't really know why they were doing it. So, and what I mean by that is I'm a master of getting through a to-do list. But it doesn't mean anything on that to-do list really was important. So I was getting somewhere fast. I just had no clue where I was going. And so that's where I started.
Oh, that is great. And you said you are, and repeat that because I think it's an awesome phrase. It was a time... Repeat
Time strategy visionary.
Time strategy visionary, TSV. See, part of my background is in IT, so I love acronyms. If people who watch the show can't figure that one out yet, but wow, a time strategy visionary. Wow, I need one of those.
Yeah, and as I believe we all do. And so let me explain a little bit of why I chose that name versus time management coach.
Okay.
Because many people will say, well, I think you're a time management coach. My challenge as I was working through the first part of my professional career was the fact that I lacked a vision of where I wanted to go. And so when I decided I'm starting my own business and I'm doing whatever it is I had a lot of thought went into what do I call myself? Because I felt like I needed a label. We all, I just feel like I need a label so people know what I am. And I started with time strategy visionary. I knew I wanted to work in the arena of time management. But I also knew that what I lacked when I first started my professional career was a vision of where I wanted to be. And so if I can start with the vision and then work ourselves back to where are we now versus where do we want to be, and then bridge the gap with time management strategies, that's where I want to, that's who I am and what I do. And so hence the name Time Strategy Visionary, or TSV.
There you go. And I tell you, that's an excellent way to put it. I can see why people would look at you and say, and I'll say just a coach. And it's so funny because every time I say just a coach, I hear Tony Robbins' voice in my head because he does this thing when he's on stage when somebody says she's just a mom and he goes, just a mom. And it's funny because it's, when the guy's 6 billion feet tall and as powerful as he is, his voice sticks in your head. So anyway, there goes. There's some more SEO for the video. But anyway, but I can see why people would say you're a time coach, because a coach in regular athletics is a visionary, has to be a visionary, has to set the vision for the team. The problem in our field is that coach is sometimes overused and sometimes incorrectly used. And it's when you're doing something like you're doing, you're so much more than a traditional life or business coach. You're something more than just asking questions, something more than being a mentor. You're helping to set that vision, that go forward strategy, right?
Absolutely. And part of what you just stated about how we can use that term coach, and I'll try not to get up on my soapbox, because I did it when I first started my business. I called myself a coach. I had no idea that all I was doing was telling people what to do, which is so not coaching. And so then I went back and said, all right, if I'm going to do this and do this well, I need the background and the education for it. And so went back and then became certified through International Coach Federation. Because for me, coming from the field of education, not only did I need a name, but I needed a degree or a certification to go with that. But again, that was part of my vision for how I wanted to run my business, not necessarily what everyone does. But it's funny that you pulled up on that coach piece, because at the beginning I branded everywhere I was a coach. And then I took my first class and I thought, oh, no, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you brought up that you've gotten your credentials through the International Coach Federation. It's always interesting because one of the other things I've done over the past 4 years is I joined John Maxwell's team about 4 years ago when he created it as a founding partner of his coaching, teaching, public speaking certification program. And that was one of the things that I found out very quickly was that, my perception of a coach was completely off from what an actual coach really did. I was looking, I was a mentor to people before, and I was looking at the coaching from a sports and an athletic standpoint. The challenge that all coaches have, and it sounds like you went through this as well, is that with sports and the fact that sports are so prevalent, and coach has become this term for really a manager, a leader, a mentor, and everything else, that it's difficult for life, business, time, and other type coaches out there to get people to realize that, if you really want coaching, it's going to be a long process, and it's going to be a lot of questions. You're going to find the answers within all of that stuff, so to speak. And I'm going to get down off my soapboxes. We're going to take this in a completely different. We're going to take this in a completely different direction. This is supposed to be about you. So part of everybody's hero's journey, so to speak, is that they had a challenge or some turning point that they had to overcome, some seminal moment that they hit. Some people have hit rock bottom and it's changed them. Is there any moment in your journey you can say you had this seminal moment, this awakening, this aha, that created this time? I really wish I could think and remember at the same time. I need to get a memory guy on these to improve my memory, because this talking and remembering at the same time is terrible. So I guess I got to shut up. But no, was there a seminal moment that you went, this is what I need to do, and this is why I need to do it?
I wish I could tell you there was one, because then I would look really smart and aware and mindful. There were like four. I just had to keep getting hit in the head with it over and over and over again before I would listen. So a piece of my journey is that as I was working a lot of hours and in a somewhat stressful environment and just going, I would get to the place where I didn't understand that when you say yes to something, that means you're saying no to something else. I just thought those people were poor schedulers. And so if I had two things at the same time and it was a conflict, I would just reschedule one. So I thought I could say yes to everything, not realizing I was saying no to myself and my self-care and all of those pieces, which you don't catch that right away until it becomes a challenge. And so I hit a health challenge, took a step back, said, this is wrong. I can't do this. I'm gonna completely change my life, and went back to the very same job in just a different school district. And 3 years ran myself right back into the same wall. And then I said, oh no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to completely change my life. and backed myself out. And what do you know? A couple of years later, ran right back into the same wall. And so about that time, I started to realize you will keep doing this. My natural inclination, obviously, is to work until I drop. So either I figure it out or I am not going to have a very long or healthy life. And so that took 10 years back and forth in education, out of education, back in education, just thinking, well, if I set the right boundaries, I'll listen to them. Well, I won't. And so then at that point, I remember having a conversation with someone, and she had her whole life mapped out. She was so young, and she had her whole life mapped out, and she's like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I thought, that's it, Lisa. I was working part-time at the time. I thought, you right now put in your notice at the end of the school year, and you're jumping into your business full-time, but before you do, you have 4 months to figure it out how to do it without running yourself into the wall. And so we can pretend, Chris, that yes, I had one pivotal moment and I listened and it changed my life, but the reality is it took over 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love what you said. And it's funny because one of the things that John Maxwell always says, or, part of his teaching team, Marty Galbraith always says, is always tell a story. Never tell a story without a point, and never make a point without telling a story. Something close to that. And I love the story you just told and the message I got from it. And I hope that our viewers get this message as well, is the fact that sometimes you get tickled by a feather and kind of get nudged in a particular direction. If you don't listen to it, you eventually get whacked over the head with a 2x4, and you have to go listen to it. So it's for you, it appears that 2x4 came with a health crisis and kind of a, this is just not working. I've got to figure out what's not working, which is one point. The second point, before we kind of wrap this piece of our show up, I'm going to translate a little bit of what you said, because I think what you really said was, if you realize that if something didn't change, you were just going to be repeating the same things over and over again. And most people in the personal development and growth industry think that the next book, the next life change, the next job change is going to magically fix them. And they don't stop to sit and say, well, why, what's going to be different this time? What am I going to change? This job that appears to be different, but it's really the same as my old job. What is going to be different this time? What is going to change? And is that thing that's going to change something that's going to make a life-altering change, or is it just going to be like window dressing or paint? I mean, I've got, as you can see, I've got a white wall behind me. There's probably 7 different colors of paint below that wall. Well, it's still the same wall, and nothing's really changed. It's just the surface. If I chip it away and really go, decide to scrape all the paint away, I'm going to find out what is underneath, and it hasn't changed fundamentally. So unless I do something to change it fundamentally, then it's just window dressing, right? Is that kind of the point?
It is exactly that. And I kept thinking, well, if I go to a different school, or if I state my hours, or if I get in secretary, or whatever the piece may be, that's going to be what I need. But I didn't look deep down at what was driving me and what's my personality and all of those pieces. Absolutely. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Exactly. Well, I applaud you and I commend you for admitting that. You'd be shocked at how many people in our industry, struggle to admit that. And we could probably do a whole series of shows on why that is. But so I commend you for recognizing that and for moving on. Before we take a quick break and then get into your time strategy visionary, that core of accomplishing your number one most important task. Any final thoughts you want to say on your journey at this point?
I feel like I've explained it pretty. I feel like I've explained it pretty well. I hope so, Chris. It's that idea of I'm not afraid to admit that it was a journey, and it is a journey, and all of those pieces. That's why I can do what I do, because I lived it and came out the other side.
Excellent, excellent. Well, and you did explain it incredibly well. I always like to give people, because I talk so much. If you haven't guessed it, I kind of like to talk. It makes it really fun hosting a show because I have to remember that it's not about me; it's about our guests and our viewers. So I always like to give our guests at least a, try to give them the last word, or at least close to the last word anyway, to make sure I didn't step on them. So excellent. Well, folks, we're going to take a real quick break, but you want to stick around because coming up next, we're going to have Lisa taking a deep dive, I'll say, into accomplishing your number one most important task every single day, even if you're super busy. So stick around and we'll be right back. And we're back. We were just doing a little dancing in the background. You guys didn't see that. We should really have a video camera set up for the behind the scenes of all of this because it's probably more interesting than whatever I'm about to say. So anyway, but it's definitely not more interesting than what you're about to say. So Lisa, we're into the meat of why people probably tuned in, at least if they saw the promo stuff, which is accomplish your number one most important single task every single day. I'll get it right eventually. By the time we end this episode, I'll learn how to say the title of your episode, even if you're super busy. Lisa, give me a quick overview of what we're going to talk about in this segment.
Absolutely. One of the challenges that many of my clients face is that they have a lot to do every day. Most of my clients are entrepreneurs. They're running their own businesses, and so they're juggling a lot of hats. And so they have a very lengthy to-do list. And as many of us have learned, at the end of the day, you can very easily rewrite that to-do list into the next day or slide it over if you use an electronic calendar. And you feel busy all day long. Yet, at the end of the day, you think, what did I really accomplish? And it's that idea of being, how's that go, in the forest, but you can't see the trees, or you can't see the trees for the forest, that whole, whatever, that wonderful person who I'm not giving credit to had a fabulous saying that I have just butchered. But it's that idea, Chris,
Exactly.
that I'm talking about. And so you look back and you say, in 5 years, you look ahead and you say, in 5 years, I'm going to be here. And then 5 years, you're there, and you're looking, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not where I thought I would be. I haven't done what I thought I would do. Why is that? I've been busy working every day. How did I not get here?
Exactly.
And it's because we tend to react to the urgent. We're professionals. We will hit our deadlines. We will make sure that the stuff that needs to get done for other people gets done, but not necessarily for us. And so that's the challenge, is how do you flip that? Even if you're only flipping it a little bit, 15 minutes each day is better than not flipping it at all.
Yeah, exactly, and that's so true. And the way we break things down here, it was an excellent summary. And I can't wait to learn more about your 3 keys to success here. And the 3 keys we're going to cover are learning how to identify the most important task, learning the secret step needed to make sure you accomplish this most important task, and learning how to replicate your success over and over again. So Lisa, let's dive into that first point. Learn how to identify your most important task. How do we learn this skill?
The key is important versus urgent. Because, again, we're going to get the urgent done. It will get done. People watching your episode, they're professionals. The urgent gets done. So it's a matter of when you're setting out your day. And when I say the 3 keys to success, let me back up for a second. I use the acronym, which you will enjoy, AWE. And it stands for awareness, work, and evaluation. And what typically happens is we get stuck in the W phase, and we just work. And so I want to throw in the awareness piece and the evaluation piece for that. So step 1, how do we identify? That falls under awareness. So when we're starting to think about what's our most important thing to accomplish today, if that has a deadline within the next 24 hours, it's not the task that's the most important because it's urgent. So start to think about what's important. What's that goal that you have? What's that vision? What's that big piece out there that you're working towards? And what's one task that gets you closer to that goal? That deadline probably doesn't even exist. It's probably just one of those things that you want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So and I really love how you separated the important from the urgent, because I was going to raise my hand and go, I am guilty of that, as well as everybody else. You end up, thinking everything is urgent, thinking everything is, it has to be done now, because if it doesn't get done now, some catastrophe is going to happen, so to speak. And you don't realize that it's just important, but not necessarily urgent. And if you treat
Right.
everything as urgent, then what is really urgent, right?
Right, right. It goes kind of in for those viewers who are familiar with Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants. We tend to live in quadrant 1, which is urgent and important, where when we can live in quadrant 2 of important but not urgent, our stress levels go down and we're working towards our bigger goals because we have important stuff that we're doing, but it's not timely, it's not urgent. And so, for an example, if we just take it away from business for a second and use health. Quadrant 2 is going out and taking a walk. That is a quadrant 2. It's important, but it's not urgent. That becomes urgent when the doctor says, XYZ is wrong with you and you need to go, 10,000 steps a day or whatever that prescription may be. Now all of a sudden it's become a quadrant 1 activity. It has a time limit. You better get on it. Or it's the difference of working in your business, which is usually quadrant 1, versus working on your business, which is usually a quadrant 2. And those are usually your important but not urgent, and that's what we slide off our schedules. So the first step is let's figure out what it is that's most important, awareness, identify it, because you can't accomplish it if you don't identify it.
Right. It's kind of like, mowing the lawn. If you haven't identified that the grass is too long right now, you can't go out and mow the lawn.
Exactly.
I'm sorry if that just brought back nasty memories, Lisa. I didn't really realize the example I was giving until it was out of my mouth. So
it's one I haven't heard before, but it could very well pop up in a later experience of mine. So I will credit you, though.
I was kind of thinking of the reason. Yeah, I was kind of thinking of your lawn mowing challenge.
Yes, challenge.
So. Oh, but no, that's great. Yeah, until you, like you said, until you identify something, you can't tackle it. You can't do anything about it. So that's excellent. Anything more about learning how to identify the most important task?
There are probably as many people who are listening to this broadcast as there are different ways to identify it. I like to say, let's look at your big goal and vision. However, maybe you, like we were talking about, Brian Tracy, eat the frog. Maybe that's how you identify. Maybe you close your eyes, put your hand over your heart, and say, what's most important to accomplish today? There's, I would assume, limitless ways to identify. My favorite is let's look at your vision.
Let's move into this next one, the secret step to make sure you accomplish your most important task. I love secrets. So give us the secret step.
So this goes into the W phase of awe, the work phase.
Okay.
And so we have heard, schedule it into your calendar. If it's important enough to do, it's important enough to schedule into your calendar as an appointment. So let's say I've identified my most important thing, I've chosen a place on my calendar, I've scheduled it in on that specific time. Now it holds more weight. It's an appointment, and if we're going to cancel an appointment, we're going to reschedule it. Or we think twice before we cancel it, because it's not just one of 20 things on a to-do list. It's an appointment in the calendar. But we've heard that. That's not the secret. Okay. The secret is make it a conscious choice.
Okay.
I will say time management, you will say time management. I really believe it's choice management. We all have the same amount of time. How are we managing it? What we're doing is we're managing our choices on how we want to use it. And so when it comes to, let's say you chose 10 a.m. as your time to accomplish your number one most important task. And when it comes to 10 a.m., you then make a conscious choice. Are you going to stop what you're doing, because you're doing something, and do what you said you were, honor your commitment to yourself and to your future at 10 a.m., or are you going to continue what you're doing? And by making it a choice, you now are stopping yourself, you're thinking. And I even advise my clients to go a step further and write it down. Because I'm telling you, it's hard to write down on a piece of paper, I didn't do my most important thing today because I didn't feel like it. Like, that's tough. Or I didn't do my most important thing today because Chris called me on the phone and I decided to talk to him for 45 minutes instead. Like, that's hard to admit day after day after day after day. And so instead, look at it and say, you know, I am choosing to do my most important thing, or I am choosing not to, or I'm rescheduling. Chris called me on the phone at 10, so I rescheduled till 11. Or whatever, but you're stopping, you're being mindful. This is my life, my choices, my decisions. I'm proactive. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. But gosh darn it, it's going to be my decision. I'm not going to look at the clock at 5 o'clock and say, holy cow, where'd the day go?
Wow, and that is an incredible thing to bring up, the fact that it has to be a conscious decision. And I have to admit, I've never really thought of it that way before, but it ends up, I'm going to translate it a little bit. For my money, it ends up almost playing on the guilt piece of your conscience. It's like, people don't like to admit when they're wrong. They don't like to admit when they make a mistake, so they're more apt to actually follow through on something if it means they don't have to admit that they did something wrong, right? I mean, is
right.
that kind of...
Right, and it puts you back in reality, because how many times are we exhausted thinking about all the things we need to do for our business?
Yeah.
And then we look back and we're like, oh yeah, I didn't do any of that. But boy, am I tired thinking about it. It's hard to hide from raw data.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one thing people don't realize is they only have a limited amount of mental energy during any given day. It's easy to quantify physical energy because if you go out and run a marathon or mow the grass or do anything physically taxing, you can feel tired. But people don't realize that the same thing applies to their mental energy. And it's one of the reasons why people who are in office jobs sometimes the people who are in physical labor jobs can't identify with people who are in office jobs saying, why are you tired? It's like, well, mental energy is an actual thing. So before I go down that whole path, like I said, see, I gotta rein myself in. I need a little, I need one of those little hooks. Remember in the old style, remember what was it, on the hee-haw or something like that, with the old, get the hook. I need the hook. So before I give myself the hook, let's move on to, because I think you said it so well about the secret step is putting it on your calendar and then making a conscious decision when that time comes. Are you going to do it or not do it? And if you choose not to do it, write it down why you didn't do it. So I think that's awesome. So let's look at how to replicate the success over and over again. Once we've learned how to identify this most important task, and once we've learned how to start to become successful in completing things, how do we replicate that success over and over again?
So that's the third letter of awe. A was awareness, W was work, E is evaluation. How do we replicate it? Well, we look at that paper that we've written down, I did it, I didn't do it. And we look at what worked. What can we adjust to work better in the future? The story that I give is you'll be amazed at what you find out if you can just start to keep track of it. So when I shoot my videos for my blogs, I typically will do that in the afternoon, just because, not necessarily this conscious choice and this big, theory about doing it. It just happens to be typically in the afternoon. And gosh darn it, if the mailman and the UPS guy and the FedEx guy don't come in the afternoon, and the dog goes crazy, just absolutely nuts. And so then I'm caught with, well, do I edit it? Do I not edit it? Do I shoot it again? Blah, blah, blah. And it took like 3 or 4 days before I was like, oh yeah, this is happening because of this. But that comes from an evaluation phase.
Right.
And evaluating what's working and what isn't doesn't happen in a vacuum. That has to be scheduled in at the end of the week. Because otherwise, you're so busy. When are you going to take 5 or 10 minutes to look back and say, hey, you know what? 9 o'clock really works for me for thinking tasks. But 1 o'clock doesn't work for me if, when I really need to crunch the numbers because my brain's a little mentally tired. Or when I schedule this right after a meeting with someone, I tend to push it because I just don't have a focus, or whatever those pieces may be. You'll learn that in the evaluation phase. And as soon as you can start to figure out when you are best, under what circumstances, you can replicate this over and over and over. It takes some give and take. It's trial and error. But eventually, you'll get to your perfect way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so true. I mean, some people are more creative at certain times of the month or certain times of the day. There's new studies out now showing that I think it's something that people who are night owls are actually more creative than people who are early risers, and early risers are more analytic, but that's because they're up at a certain time and they do more because there's not as much noise in the world. Also, it's amazing the research that they're doing. So what you're saying is falling in line with a lot of the brand new research. I know I've even coached people through. I coached somebody through who had literally, it was about 3 or 4 days of uber creativity every month, and it happened right as the full moon. It's like you could tell when there was a full moon because this person wouldn't sleep for 4 days and would literally do a month's worth of work in 4 days and be uber creative. And so as far as we could tell, he wasn't on any drugs or cocaine, and everything else was not a part of it as far as we know. So but no, in all seriousness, but if you don't identify that, then you can't take full advantage of it, right? That's part of what you're saying is that not only identifying why things are happening. Once you identify why things are happening, you can take full advantage, and that's what allows you to replicate it and take full advantage of it.
Absolutely. I figure out what doesn't work and figure out what does. Because that's one of those pieces of writing it down. We tend to forget to celebrate our success. And so let's look at the times it did work. Let's look at the time you picked your time and you chose to do your task and you felt great on the other side. Well, what happened to make that work? There are things that happen along the way. Make sure you can start to pull those out so you can replicate over and over.
Excellent. Well, this part of our show today has been incredibly enlightening. It's funny because I'm about to tell people how to get in contact with you, and you've given a very gracious and special offer. I can tell you, Lisa, I think I'm going to need like a 300-minute accomplish more strategy session because I talk way too much, and maybe that's part of my problem. But anyway, so for those of you who have gotten great information so far, which should be everybody watching this, Lisa's got a special offer for you. She's got a complimentary 30-minute Accomplish More strategy session. I'm going to pull up there we go. It's at www.schedulewithlisa.com. I, just like one of our other hosts, Mark, love to read things even when they're on the screen. So we have the website address on the screen right now. I implore you, I challenge you, I invite you to reach out to Lisa. Schedule this 30-minute Accomplish More strategy session. I know if you're anything like me, you can tell just by the last 15 minutes or so, Lisa's got great information. She's going to be able to help you accomplish more. And let's face it, something that James Malinchak always talks about. It's not about working smarter or working harder. It's about working right. He goes through this whole scenario very quickly where he says, look, here's a brick wall and here's a door. If I try and get through this wall with my fist, it's not going to work. So if I work harder, I can take a chair and try and bust through it. It's still not going to work. But if I work right and go over and just open the door and walk through, then things start to happen. And Lisa, from just this segment, I can tell that's something that you can help people through, working right, not necessarily working smarter or harder, right?
Absolutely, because as you and I both know, time management strategies are so simple to understand. So truly not rocket science. They're not easy to implement. And so it's finding the right ways to implement those for you. And so, like when you said at the very beginning, what are there other ways for awareness? Are there other ways to pick your activity? Yeah. And what I said may not work. The two things we talked about may not work for people listening right now, but there is a way that will work. And that's what that strategy session is designed for, to help you start to pick the pieces that work for you. Because there's great books out there. I've read many of them. But that doesn't mean that those are exactly the right strategies for me.
Excellent. Well, incredible stuff. We're going to take a quick break. During the break, head over to schedulewithlisa.com. That's schedulewithlisa.com. Yep, it's still on the screen. To check those things to make sure so I'm not saying the wrong thing. Head over there, schedule a 30-minute complimentary Accomplish More strategy session. You'll definitely be glad you did. And then join us on the backside where Lisa and I are going to talk about getting known, what she does to build visibility, credibility, and authority in her niche. So stick around and we'll be right back. And we're back with our great guest for today, Lisa Mallis, and this is the Getting Known segment. All day today we're talking about a topic that appears to be number one on the number one on the hit parade, or near and dear to Lisa. Man, Lisa, I'm dating myself with some of these references. The hee-haw hook and the hit parade. This is,
But I'm right there with you, so we're both.
So we've been talking all day today about accomplishing your number one most important task every single day, even if you're super busy. And then we're going to shift focus a little bit. So if you're just joining us today, or if you're seeing this as a piece of a segment, you want to go out and look for the rest of it. Head out to expertshowcase.com, VideoContent.Agency. Check out and look for the rest of it and get that great information. It's probably on a playlist, probably in 1,700 different places. People probably scraped it by now. I love internet scrapers, but hey, as long as we get the royalties and the recognition, that's really what matters, right, Lisa? So we're going to shift focus here. For this segment, we're going to talk about getting known. And what this is Lisa and I are going to talk about how she builds visibility, credibility, and authority in her niche as a time strategy visionary. So Lisa, let's start off with visibility. Visibility, a quick definition of visibility is just basically getting your ideal clients to see you and at least know you exist. It's kind of like, hey, I think there's something, I think Lisa might be able to help me. At least I know Lisa's name. I know what she does. How do you currently build visibility for your time strategy vision practice?
And forgive me if I start giving you examples that fit into other categories, so feel free to move them around, those of you who are listening, and Chris, in your heads. But one of the major ways that I build visibility is exactly what we're doing right now, is just sharing what I love and how it may be of service to you. And so I'll do podcast and audio and video in your case. And I'll also, yay, in my blog, and I'll also do presentations local, for local networking groups or professional organizations. A lot of what I teach is CEU eligible, depending on the organization and the profession. And so I'll do some of that training also. And so that's a lot of the ways hiring a coach is very personal. And so for me, there needs to be some sort of interaction, even if it's just video and not in person. In person tends to help build that relationship a little bit quicker. But video, I find, is a great way for people to get a sense of who I am. Like we shared earlier, I watch your episodes because I want to know and get a sense of who you are and who Mark is. And so to do that, I think it helps to build that relationship. So that's how one of the ways I build visibility is to be visible online through video.
And it's kind of ironic, just like we were talking earlier about time management strategies are all common sense. We talk a lot about visibility, and it does boil down to being visible and getting yourself out there. Last time I checked, the person hiding in their house, not doing podcasts, not talking to anybody, not doing any video isn't going to really be found by anybody. They have no friends and no family, and it's kind of, so if you're just watching this and that's what you're doing, and you want to achieve something in this world, might be time to think about a different strategy. I don't know, just saying. So, putting aside that, we here at Expert Showcase and Video Content Agency love video. Putting aside that fact for a second, what have you found to be the most effective way of building your visibility? Is it podcasts? Is it video? Is it live performances? What have you found for your particular business to be the most effective way?
For me, it's live. I have found what's great about my business is I have clients all over the United States and in the world, which is really cool when I'm trying to convert time zones and I have a client in England and Australia, because I invariably need to go to that nice little converter online to help me with that. But and so I have that opportunity to reach a lot of people, but I find that the live presentations, people get a better sense of who I am and there's more interaction. And so that tends to work the best out of everything for me.
Great. And the other question, because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this who feel that same way. I know when I started off doing podcasts and videos and everything else, I actually refused to do them at the beginning because I said, well, I need to be in front of a live audience. I need to do this. I need to do that. But, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who are exactly in the same situation as you are, which they say live is the best. From a visibility standpoint, from doing podcasts and video and blogs and vlogs as a secondary means, how has that helped your business and help get you more clients, help get you more visibility?
One of the things that I created towards the beginning of my business was a 30-day awe-inspired challenge. And so for every day, for 30 days, you received an email with a strategy and then some actions on the bottom, but each one of those came with a video. And it was a free challenge. It lasted for 30 days, and I was amazed at the people who felt they knew me that I had never met. And so random strangers would come up to me, and so because it was people I knew, and then they told people they knew, and then people on Facebook, and then all of a sudden all these people on there, and I don't know most of the people on the challenge personally. And I would go somewhere, someone who was a friend of a friend of a friend would say to me, "Oh my God, I watch you every morning while I'm laying in bed on my iPad." And I think, I don't know if that's creepy or not. I don't know, but whatever's working.
Exactly. I'll never forget. I used to be a fairly good bowler at one point. Round ball, 16-pound, down 10 pins. I have to explain that because we have a lot of people from India watching us, and every time I say bowler, they think cricket, and it's like I watch cricket every now and then. Still haven't learned how to play it, but anyway. So 16, and I'll never forget. I actually bowled on television, and I went into my mechanic. And I pull in, and he goes, "Guess who I saw on television yesterday?" And that was the first thing out of his mouth. And I'm going, "I've got no clue. Who?" And he goes, you dumb bunny." And I went, "You did?" And then we started talking, and here it was, he'd see me bowl. But it's such an awesome experience to have people who you don't know, or even who you do know, who you don't know are watching, come up and say, "Hey, we've seen you. And we got a chance to get to know you." And it kind of goes right into the credibility thing, because those people wouldn't be saying hi to you and wouldn't be talking nice to you if you hadn't at least started to build credibility in their minds. And they wouldn't be laying in their bed on their iPad, which I know it could be creepy, yeah, but that's a topic for a different show. Anyway. But should we get Maury Povich on it? No. No.
I don't need that type of SEO.
Oh, that's great. Maury, if you're watching, give us a call. But anyway, no, in all seriousness, it goes into starting to build your credibility, because if people, like I said, if people didn't like what they saw and they didn't believe you, being credible as being a believable expert, they wouldn't come up and approach you. So that must have been nice to to
It
find that.
was. I felt kind of like a superstar for a little bit. So when you define credibility, I'm feeling somewhat like it's that authenticity, that idea of you walk your talk, and like those pieces. And so you're saying, here are my videos, here's who I am, here's what I'm asking you to try to do too, and see if they work for you, and they resonate.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, while you said yourself, live performances are where where you're at your best and really building visibility. It seems that this 30-day challenge that included videos and blogs and everything went a long way to, it appears anyway, it went a long way to building your business, or at least starting to build your business and building your visibility and credibility, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I find another way that I try to build my credibility, like that idea about authenticity piece, is on the organizations, professional and networking organizations that I belong to, is I actively seek out a leadership role. Because let's admit it, my skill set, really good to have if you want to get things done. Not gonna lie. I'm the one sitting in the meeting asking for an agenda, and after this great idea comes out, I'm the one that says, and who's going to do that? And by when? Let me take down those action steps for us. Because that's who I am. That's what I believe in. I am probably not that person who's going to generate 50 wonderful, brilliant, out-of-the-box ideas. But gosh darn it, when you generate one, we are going to make sure it happens. And so that's one of the ways that I find that I build credibility, is take what are my God-given talents and use them for good, as opposed to using them for annoyance, but use them for good. Put them on a board of people, especially people who are creative thinkers, and let's say, okay, now let's turn these great ideas into action. How do we do that? So that's one of those ways that I start to build my credibility, because that's who I am. Let's use it.
Excellent. So, and if you're a creative thinker like me, you need to reach out to Lisa. Go back and watch the other piece of the episode. If you're watching this in parts, or just kind of rewind, it was schedulewithlisa.com. You definitely, especially if you're a creative thinker, because from one creative thinker to another watching this video, it's great to have ideas, but if they never materialize and you never do anything about them, well, you might as well just have not had the idea at all. I hate to say it that way, but that's coming from somebody who's probably had 100,000 ideas over his life, and knows the challenge of watching somebody else create his idea and have it sold for $1 million. So anyway, but that's besides the point. We're here to talk about Lisa, not me. But what I really want our viewers to understand is that, Lisa is really right here. If you're a creative thinker, you need somebody like Lisa in your corner to help you get things done. So then let's talk about authority. Now, authority is literally, comes from the root word author, being writing the book on something. How are you establishing yourself, or how have you established yourself as a leading authority in the time management, niche, and the time strategy niche?
And so I've written a couple books. So one of the books went with the Odd Challenge. After running the Odd Challenge a couple times, I thought, wouldn't it be great if people had somewhere to write all their ideas? And so, you're getting an email telling you, things that you can try. You're listening to it on video, but then you're writing your ideas on scraps of paper and you're losing them. So I created 30 Days to Success, an awe-inspired journal, as a supplement to that challenge, so that you could track your progress every day for 30 days. And then one of the other books that I wrote is it's Your Time, Your Life. And it's a guide based for people in the direct sales industry, MLMs, network marketing, those types of things, on how are you balancing your family and your career? How do you do things more efficiently and more effectively? And then the other book that I wrote is The Dog Ate Your Homework, Time Management Strategies and Techniques for High School Students. And so as you can see, I'm pulling in all parts of my life from previous, but who better to help you figure out how to best educate your child than someone who spent 15 years in education as a math teacher and an administrator. And so this book is designed for the parent who's trying to let go a little bit because their kid's in high school, yet they know the kid needs a little bit of help. And it gives you strategies on how to maximize your effectiveness as a student without being very heavy educational language. So it's definitely written in a student-friendly, teen-friendly language. And then the book that's almost out is being edited as we speak, and actually literally as we speak, I believe, it's being edited for real, is Ho Ho No. And it's a book for holiday. It's time management strategies to reduce stress around the winter holiday season. And so it's Ho Ho No, how to have a stress-free holiday season.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you, Lisa, that wish I would have had you on a lot sooner. Oh, that was it. But no,
yeah. For those of you not in Chris and I's joke, I will admit I have had some health challenges recently and have rescheduled on him a number of times. And so that was his funny, but I think this was the perfect timing, God darn it.
Yes, and at least when you went to write down when you had to reschedule, you had valid reasons. But the reason I bring that up is because you really exemplify what we talk about building visibility, credibility, and authority. You're building visibility in a number of means, video being one of them, live events, blogs. You built credibility because you've helped people, you've given them a solution to an issue they need solved, and it's been the right solution, so you built credibility, and you've gone on to write books in your niche, or niche as our Canadian friends say, or actually the rest of the world says. It's us Americans that are messed up in this one. So you've built becoming an authority in your niche by writing books based on time, time management, time strategy, and being a visionary in that field. So excellent. So I want to commend you on that. Like I said, it's awesome when we have somebody on who follows the 3 pillars and actually is a success at it. We need everybody to stick around. We're going to take another real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about getting found. And this is going to really focus on Lisa's video content and other content marketing efforts. So stick around and we'll be right back. We're back with the getting found portion of our show today. Today our wonderful guest is Lisa Mallis, and we've been talking all day about accomplishing the number one most important task every day, even if you're super busy. And in this segment, we're going to focus on getting found. And Lisa, we're going to focus on what video content marketing or other content marketing efforts you're doing to get found and get found in this noisy world we call the internet. So my first question would be, do you use video content? Do you use blogs? What do you use most often? I'll say that's generating the biggest results for you.
Really good question. So I find that I blog most consistently, and then I will put videos on YouTube and then hook them over to my blog, which I'm sure you have a magic way to say that. That sounds much more intelligent in the video blogging world, but I do that. And so I find that that is a secondary reaction to me, though I have shared that visibility, as in like actually being able to see me, as a higher return rate. Not real sure why I'm doing the video second and the blogging first, but that happens to be where I'm at. And something to evaluate. Thank you for asking, because I'm writing this down.
It's amazing what happens when you ask a question and
as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking, wow, need to think about that some more.
So it's interesting. So I think what you just said is you do see a good return on your investment from doing videos. In other words, you do see people, for lack of a better term, to stop me from babbling, a good return on your investment, but yet you're still focused more on the written blogs than you are on the videos.
Right.
Excellent. Now, do you think is that because it's easier? That you feel it's easier to write a blog than it is to do a video?
So here's an answer that I'm going to give you because it's the truth, but you have my permission to edit it out later. So just know, those of you watching, you may not have heard the whole thing. No, honestly, for me, I can write a blog in my pajamas. I can write a blog if I'm not feeling well. I can write a blog if I have bronchitis. When I shoot a video, it's hair and makeup and in the dog, somewhere else. I'm not barking, but it's those pieces. So when you say easier, in reality, I think it's easier for me to produce verbally, but it's more effort for me to get ready to shoot the video.
Right.
If that makes sense. I'm a much better, as you can tell, I'm a much better talker than I am a writer. However, I can write regardless how I'm feeling or how I'm looking.
Yeah, and that's that's a common concern for a lot of people. It's one of the reasons why, just like today, it's funny. Depending on we'll let you in a little secret. Depending on how you're seeing this video, you might see this video over the course of 4 or 5 days. But this was all shot in one sitting in about an hour to shoot multiple. It's one, depending on how you're seeing. You might see one show. You might see multiple pieces of the show. And it's the same way that we at VideoContent.Agency work with clients. We make it simple by doing one recording for an entire month, so that you end up producing a month's worth of content, in a couple hours, versus what most people do with video, which is they got to do the hair, the makeup, they do everything else, and it becomes a daily chore or a weekly chore. And let's face it, we didn't like chores when we were kids. We definitely don't like chores now, especially when we're supposed to be, building business and having fun. So, your concern is very valid, and that's what stops a lot of people from doing video and from using video for their content marketing efforts. What are the things? Okay, we got video, blog. We know you do podcasts. For content marketing, and for those of you who are questioning, what the heck is content marketing? Let me give you a kind of a base to work from. I mean, content marketing is really all about creating content, creating things that will solve problems for your niche marketer community, getting them out there and allowing that to do the work of marketing versus paid advertising and versus everything else that I'll say costs serious money. Content marketing is a way that you can improve your reach, improve your visibility, credibility, and authority by getting your content out there and putting it in strategic locations so that the right people will find it. So based on that, Lisa, I mean, what other content marketing efforts are you doing at this point?
And so I also write guest blogs or guest posts for a couple different. Some are organizations, some are groups. So, and I look at where are the people I most identify with and who most identify with me, and then provide content to those areas. So, in addition to a newsletter to my list, which almost always includes a video, which tends to get more clicks than the click-through on the written piece. But so when it comes to content marketing, I will do, I'll write stuff for newsletters in the direct sales industry. Every month I'll have a article that's deliberate to that particular MLM or whatever that may be. And then also the professional organizations I belong to, every month I'll provide them with content to put on their website. Things like that. And a trick, good, bad, or otherwise, that I use is that it tends to be similar content, but I make sure that the intro and the conclusion are switched up considerably, and then it's targeted towards that market, but it could all be talking about the parking lot as a cure for overwhelm, and then it's just tweaked to fit the group that it best fits.
Yeah, that is awesome, and that's a great strategy. It's the same thing you can do with video, same thing you can do with a lot of things, which is repurpose the bulk of your content, but then make it specific enough to specific enough to your core, to your niche market, that it resonates with them and gets them to approach you to do business. I've got one final question as far as the whole content marketing space goes. If we lump all of content marketing into blogs and videos and that sort of thing, What do you think has given you a bigger return on your investment or been more effective? Content marketing or straight out paid advertising, like boosting posts and paid posts and pay per click and that sort of thing?
I will say that I'm like reaching to my head right now to see, like, I don't typically boost post. I don't typically pay for advertising. If I have a ad somewhere, it was so say a magazine called and interviewed me for something, and then later they call back and said, hey, do you want a $50 ad in the back of, I'll be like, oh yeah, throw me back in your experts panel, thinking it's a good, they're reading about me here, they'll see me in the back, that's not a bad thing. So I don't know that I can compare very well because I do very little paid stuff. So I would then therefore say content marketing.
I would say I would say I think it's a great answer. What you're saying is you're building your business through not only word of mouth, but through content marketing, and that you're building a successful business without the need for paid advertising. And that's a great way of going. It's funny because you what I love about your interview today, and we're gonna kind of we're gonna wrap up today's episode here. And one of the things one of the things I love is you built a successful business, and you've done it the right way. And what I was going to say is that it's interesting. You hear a lot of content marketers talk about, make $50,000 in 3 days with content marketing. And while maybe 10 years ago they could have done that, there's a lot of challenges nowadays. And what I like about interviewing you, what I like about your whole episode is you built a legitimate, successful business, and are not bragging how you're making 6, 7, 8 figures, but you're still doing it all. I'll say with content marketing and with videos and with blogs and with posts. So it's great. It's great to be able to talk to somebody who didn't have to pay for advertising to build their to build their business. And it's good to see that you can build a good, successful business based on the things that we talk about and we teach, which is create videos, create blogs, and build visibility, credibility, and authority. And when you do that, if you do it in the right niche and resume, then you can build a successful business.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome. So I want to thank everybody for watching today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before we do, what I want to tell you is that if you're a coach and you watch this episode and you'd like to be featured as a guest on Experts Showcase, I want you to head on over to expertsshowcase.com. Click on the big yellow apply button. Send us your information. If we feel you're a good fit for the show, we'll get you on, we'll get you booked, and we'll create an Expert Showcase episode around you. And if you're a coach that would like to look into doing video content and video content marketing more and want to see what we have at VideoContent.Agency to offer, head on over to VideoContent.Agency. And yes, that is VideoContent.Agency. Take a look around the site, see if you like what you see, then get in contact with us. Let's see if we're a good fit to work together. If we are, we'll set up a plan and we'll do our best to make you successful, or at least get you some great video content that will help you build your visibility, credibility, and authority. And if you're hitting this point and you haven't seen the piece of Lisa's episode which talks about how to accomplish the #1 task every day, even if you're super busy, you want to go back and check that out and check out the rest of our videos on expertshowcase.com. Until we speak again, Lisa, have a great day, and for all viewers, you're welcome. Make it a great day.